Hello, I'm Stigmata Bob. This is chapter 22. It's about what is insanity. And I've been asked to do this video and told that less than 1% of the American population really has a good definition of what insanity is. So I'm going to try and explain to you a little bit more clearly. To begin, we have a mind. The mind belongs to the light spirit. When we die and the light spirit leaves the body, it takes with it the mind. And the mind has different parts. Just like our physical body has parts. Our head, our arms, our elbows, legs, these are different parts. So does the mind. Some of the parts that the mind has, we have the autopilot. When we ride a bicycle, we know how to ride the bicycle because we've trained the autopilot, and the autopilot knows what to do. We have the analytical part of the mind that figures out problems. We have the reactive part of the mind that whenever something is happening, we react to it. Many different parts of the mind, and one of the parts that I want to talk about is the dictionary. And in that dictionary, we have definitions of the things we've been exposed to. Occasionally, one of the definitions can be wrong. And as a result of that, as we go through our daily lives, we make mistakes and do things based on bad information stored within our dictionary. So I want to go into your mind and change the definition that you have for insanity. So go back into your mind, find the word insanity, and take a look at just what it is you have for a definition. And I want you to delete that. We're going to put in a new definition. And that definition is this. Insanity is the inability to make a rational decision because of a past series of similar past traumatic events. Now let's see if I can repeat that again. Insanity is the inability to make a rational decision because of a series of similar past traumatic incidences or events. Now I'll give you an example of that. Let's take a little boy. And it's springtime, and he lives out in the country, and they have a nice big porch with a screen door. And this little 2-year-old boy goes out the door, and underneath the porch happens to be a nest of bees, and he gets stung. So he screams and hollers. His mother comes out, picks him up, brings him back in the house, takes care of him, everything is fine. But the next day, sure enough, he does the same thing again. He walks out onto the porch, out the screen door, and he gets stung again. And he comes back in the house screaming and hollering. Well, a few days go by, maybe even a week, and he kind of forgets what happened. So he goes back out onto the porch again and gets stung again. Now what we have here is a series of traumatic events, and they have caused an effect on him. And what happens, 70 years go by. And here's old grandpa. Silly old grandpa. He will never go out the front door of the house. Always goes out the back door. Nobody knows why. Grandpa doesn't even know why. This is what insanity is. It's a series of similar past traumatic events that cause someone to not be able to make a rational decision on something. So now you know what insanity is, and you'll see it all the time. It's just that most people just don't understand what it really is and where it comes from and how it works. But now you know. How about the word crazy? Do you have a good definition stored in your mind as to what the word crazy means? Well, I'm going to try and show you that one also, and that's going to take some visual things, so I've got to change a few things around here. Be right back. Think of crazy as being like a triangle. And in this triangle, we've got a group of people or a society. And that we represent here. It's a whole bunch of people, a society. Then we've got a pumpkin up here. And then we've got an alien over here. And we've got a brick wall here. So what happens with being crazy, the pumpkin can see the alien, but the group cannot. Therefore, by definition, the pumpkin is crazy. And that's what crazy means. Crazy is a problem not between the pumpkin and the alien, it's a problem between the group and the alien. If we take out the brick wall, you see the pumpkin is no longer crazy because now the group can see the alien. So the problem is the brick wall between the group and the alien. And at this point, the pumpkin is crazy because the group cannot see the alien. So now you know a little bit more about what it means to be crazy and what it means to be insane. Well, let's go into insanity just one little bit more because there's another very important thing to recognize with insanity. I once met a lady who had an intense fear of horses. And we did a little bit of regression work, and I took her back to when she was a child, and we found nothing. So I took her further back into a previous life. And sure enough, we found that she had been in a barn full of horses, and the barn had caught fire. She went in to release the horses, but she tripped and fell. They trampled her, and she was unable to get up, and she lay there in that barn and burned to death, and that's how she died in that life. So we, for those of you who understand what a release is, we did a release on that, and she still had the problem. So we went further back in time. In fact, I think it was almost 400 years, and we found, again, she died from a horse. As a child, she was riding it, and the horse and she both fell, and the horse rolled over her and crushed her. So you see, having these traumas in a past life are stored in the mind, and it's brought forward into this life. Fears and phobias that people have that don't make any sense to anyone, and even the person who has them doesn't remember the event. Just like old grandpa who couldn't remember being stung as a child, but no way could you drag him through that front door. No way. He would not do it. And same with this lady. She couldn't stand being anywhere near horses and didn't have any reason or knowledge of why. But when you go into past life regression, you find these things. And so that's another thing about insanity you should be aware of. So when you see somebody doing something that's very unusual, not like the mainstream, they're terribly phobic or afraid of something, understand that it's probably got some connection to something in their past, either this life or in another one. And if you listen to them very closely, you start to get a picture of what it is that happened to them. Because they will say words, they will describe pictures and feelings that if you listen close enough, you start to understand what it is that happened to them. So now you know some more about insanity. That's all for today. Thank you.